On Friday, Roger Stone became the latest member of President Trump's campaign to be charged with lying to investigators.
As the special counsel investigates possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign during the 2016 election, a new Washington Post article asks, why are Trump advisors lying? So many of them. Matt Zapotosky covers the Justice Department for the Washington Post and is one of the authors of that story. And you're joining us now, Matt. Thank you so much. So, what are some of the different theories about why so many members of the Trump campaign have been accused of, or pleaded guilty to, or found guilty of lying to investigators?
Well, I think there are three real theories out there. One is pretty simple. These guys are just kind of fast and loose with the truth. President Trump himself is a little bit fast and loose with the facts and the truth, and he's surrounded himself with a lot of people who lie for any reason and for no reason. But there are also more possible sinister explanations. One would be that maybe they're trying to cover up Trump-Russia connections just because they know how politically damaging it would have been if these things had kind of emerged in real time, if voters had known about some of these connections as they went to the polls. And then another one, perhaps the most sinister of all, is that they're still trying to hide something. Maybe there is some smoking gun or other piece of evidence out there that really speaks to the core collusion case that Mueller hasn't gotten at, and all of these lies are meant to get him off the trail of that. Mueller hasn't charged anyone yet sort of directly with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to affect the election. He's just charged a lot of lies and described conduct around that aim. So I think the most sinister theory of why all these lies are being told is, well, are they still trying to hide something from Robert Mueller?
It's really a fascinating question that you and your colleagues asked in the Post this weekend, Matt. And I guess I'm trying to also understand if perhaps a lot of these individuals never thought it would actually get to this. They never thought the President of the United States would fire James Comey, which ultimately led to the creation of this special counsel. And what they were up to were dirty tricks that have existed in politics for many, many years before Donald Trump ever came onto the scene, and that they just didn't think that it would ever get to this point.
Yeah, I think that's a very good observation. And one thing I've sort of noticed, too, along this whole way is there are so many self-inflicted wounds. You talk about the firing of James Comey, before that asking James Comey to let go of the investigation into Michael Flynn. At least that's what James Comey alleged. And then all these lies. I mean, I've sort of wondered to myself, what happens if they never lie to Congress, to the FBI? What happens if everybody just goes in and tells the truth? Does Mueller just sort of pack up and say, look, this is seedy, but this is just political? The lies are what has gotten them in trouble.
It's so true. So we have sort of all these individuals lying and getting in trouble, but is there a thread that goes right through them to the president? Or, like you said, is this just sort of like a culture of dishonesty that's been around for a while because it's politics?
I think that's one of the things Robert Mueller is trying to figure out. What do all these lies amount to, and is there any wrongdoing sort of directly tied to the president? There was this one vague hint in the Roger Stone charges where Roger Stone was directed to do some of these things, to seek the emails that WikiLeaks had, and we don't know who did the directing or who was directed, except that we know it was inside the campaign. I think what we're all still waiting for is, like, is there a through line to President Trump? Certainly President Trump has been dishonest about some of these topics to the public, and some of these topics, I mean, on the question of Russia, but you know, what did he say in his answers to Robert Mueller, his written answers that his lawyer heavily vetted? And is there some sort of more substance underneath these lies that would implicate President Trump? That's something I think Robert Mueller is still actively trying to figure out.
And one of the things that you point out in your story, you actually quote a career CIA operative who wants to remind people about the bigger picture here. Because I know that the spin from the Republicans and the Trump administration is that, look, all Mueller has found are people that are lying to Congress. He hasn't found any collusion. The president tweets frequently, no collusion. But the bigger picture that the CIA operative tells you is that Russia attacked the United States. So do these several instances of false statements include enough evidence to show the Trump campaign knowingly worked with Russia in attacking this country?
Yeah, and I think another observation would be, look, I think everyone is focused on what's next. Will Robert Mueller charge the senior Trump campaign officials, the president himself, with conspiring to defraud the United States? And I would say there's a lot that we sort of already know just in the lies. That's significant in and of its own right. Maybe there is nothing criminal here at the end of the day that can implicate President Trump, but I think what Steve Hall, that CIA person that you were mentioning, is getting at is these lies are pretty significant just by themselves. Robert Mueller is trying to figure out to what extent Russia interfered in our election and what Americans might have worked with Russia, and you have all these lies that are directly trying to impede that investigation. That is really significant, whether or not Robert Mueller can ever prove that the president himself was part of some sinister conspiracy with the Kremlin. The fact that lots of people around him are lying to impede that investigation, some of them have admitted doing so. Robert Mueller just recently charged Roger Stone. He's alleged that Paul Manafort has done. That they're doing that is sort of significant in and of its own right, even if this doesn't lead to criminal charges for conspiracy, which is what the legal term for what people have come to describe as collusion.
It's so true, Matt. I mean, you hear Republicans complain about how this investigation is dragging on, and I keep thinking, well, if you just tell the truth, it wouldn't be dragging on so long, you know? Like, this could have been wrapped up, I think, a few months ago.
Yeah.
Matt Zapotosky, thank you.
Thank you.